Okay, today what we're going to look at is something called a frequency distribution table. Now, frequency distribution tables are the best way of actually organising data. So if we have a lot of scores, the easiest way to actually read those scores and understand them and draw meaning from them is to put them into a frequency distribution table. So let's have a look at doing that now. Okay, so let's say we have a data set like this. These are marks from a class of 30 and they've done a test out of 10. And we can actually see just by looking at these that the lowest test mark here would be a 3. There's a couple of those. And the highest, we've actually got some people that have got 10 out of 10. So what we need to do is we now need to organise this into our frequency distribution table. And so what we do is we set up the table and we have 3 columns. The first column here is our x. Now our x is our variable, that's actually what mark the students got out of 10. And we know that the smallest mark was 3. So I can put a 3 there, and then I'm going to number these all the way up to 10, because we know our largest score was 10. And then this second column here, I'm going to put a tally column. Now that's going to be helpful. Need that. And our last column is our F column, which stands for our frequency. Now, the best way to do this is systematically. Now, if you like, we can put in some rows so it looks a bit neater. Be easier for you guys to do it with your book. But we are just going to, instead of going through and working out how many 3s there are all up, or how many 4s, or how many 5s, that might actually take a long time. We're going to utilise the fact that we have a tally column, and we're just going to start at the very first number. So the very first number there's a 3. So I'm going to tally down 1 dash for a 3. Then I'm going to do a 5. And I'm going to work my way through. Every time I mark it down, I cross it off. Work my way through until I have done my entire set. So let's just fast forward to having it done. So here we are, we've finished the tallies, got them all marked down, and now what I do is I just read off the tallies and I work out what my total frequency is. So for my 3s, a score of 3 out of 10, I've got a frequency of 2 tallies. Then I've got a 3 there, 4 there, 4 there. Notice that when I get 5 tallies, I actually do the dash across to show that that's 5. So the score of 7 actually had a frequency of 7 there, 5 there, 3 there, and 2 there. Now it's always good, once I've filled in all my tallies and added up the frequencies, to just check. Now in the question you'll notice that it was a class of 30 students. So down the bottom here, it would be a good thing for me to check that the total of this frequency column does in fact add up to 30. And if I add this, I've got 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 7 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2, and I actually do get a total of 30. Always a good thing to double check that. Now there we go, I've got it organised. Now you'll notice that the frequency distribution table, rather than having all my scores just in a big mess, it's organised it, and I can see, in fact, that the majority of my scores sort of happened around here, don't they? This is where a lot of my scores are, which is not a bad thing. We want people to be getting 7 or 8 out of 10. We want less people to be sort of down this end. But at least now I can have a visual, and it's easy now for me to go straight from this frequency distribution table into a graph of my choice. Now what if we get a data set like this? This particular data set has a lot of scores there, which isn't a problem, but the range of the scores is quite large. You'll notice that the highest score there is 86 and the lowest one is 35. So if I was to draw up a frequency distribution table, I had my score here and my lowest was 35 and I went up, well, it is going to be an incredibly large table, considering that there's not many scores there that actually repeat. There's a lot of things there, and if there's 1 or 2 of each, well, that's going to be a very, very big table, and it's just not the most efficient way of doing it. So what I actually want to do now is I want to group my data. And the way I do it is I look at, well, what are the class intervals? That's what we call them. We call them class intervals. So I can either do this it's going up by the same number every time, and I choose some sort of value to go up by. I could, if I like, go up by tens, or I could go up by fives. It's up to me. Since my lowest score is 35, how about for this one, we go up by tens? Okay, so I set up my frequency distribution table, but because now we have what's called group data, it's a little bit different. Instead of my X column, I have what's called a class interval, and that's what I'm going to choose. Now, we said that we were going to go up in tens, so I'm going to start with 35, and because 35 is included in this set of 10, I'm actually going to go to 44. That will give me 10 scores because I have 35, 36, all the way up to 44, and that's 10. And then my next interval will start at 45, and that will go up to 54, and so on, until we actually get to a point where our highest score is included. So we're going to need to go up to have 86 included in this. So 75 to 84 almost includes it, but we need one more. So we're going to go 85 up to 94. Okay, and so now we have all of our intervals there, so our scores will fit in them. But you'll notice that we do actually have an X column here. This is it here. It's actually called the class center this time. So what will happen is that we'll actually need to find the center of our intervals, and that acts as our variable for group data. So in order to find the center of my class interval, what I need to do is I need to add the endpoints, or the limits of my interval. Oops, don't want to subtract them. I want to add them together, and then I want to halve it to find the very center. So 35 plus 44 divided by 2, and that'll give me my class center. And we're going to do that for all of these. And so you'll see that, oops, we actually get 39.5, 49.5, and it'll be the same for all of these because we've actually got intervals of 10. Now if our intervals were going up by 5s, then you would see that there would be a bit of a pattern happening. In this case, they're all the same. The class center is all going to be 9.5, whatever the 10's value is. Now that I've got my class interval and my class center, I simply need to now go and tally all the marks in. So I go through, and this time, same as last time, I start with my 39, but I ask myself which interval is it actually in. So 39 is in the first one, so I do a little dash, then I cross it off. 41 is in the same one. 68's down here now. Go through systematically until you've actually finished that entire thing. So let's skip to that now. So here we go. This is me finishing up my tallies. You'll notice that there was one interval that my tally wasn't long enough here. That's okay, I just went over a little bit. Now remember that at the end we did say it is always a good idea just to quickly total your frequency column. And if I do, I see that this is actually a total of 50, which is good. That's exactly what I wanted. I had 50 scores originally. Make sure that you do that because it's always so easy to accidentally miss one score. And there you go. That is how we create a frequency distribution table with group data. So well done.